Welcome to everyone for another Thursday Nature Mysticism discussion. And we have a special guest today. We have Don Zane Curfman, our teacher and author of Inka Mountain Magic. And we'll be talking today on nature's role in spirituality. And just kind of giving a moment for people to see that we're on.
Cool. Awesome. Happy solstice, everyone.
Oh, yeah. And isn't that mean it's your birthday, too?
Today is my birthday.
Yeah, I just realized it's Zane's birthday. Happy birthday, Zane.
Yep.
And how do you say, I always forget, how do you say happy birthday in Quechua?
Hantai watata.
Hantai watata.
Sorry, wata.
Wata.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't say it often, so.
Yeah, usually I see you type it, so like I caught you off guard a little bit.
So it's hunt with a apostrophe after the T, which means you explode out. Hunt I wata. Huntai wata.
Huntai wata. Very, very cool. Well, welcome everyone. We're just giving a moment as people kind of tune in. I see people joining us already, making sure it's public on my feed, which it's not. But we have Zane here to talk about spirituality and nature. And Zane, we have met years ago. We have hosted him almost every year for an apprenticeship program of some kind. And the next one's coming up next year in April. So we're just kind of giving you a flavor of what the Paco Kuna tradition is all about. And a big part of that is nature.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just want to tell everyone, you two have been doing a great job explaining this. Though I'm not able to be on the calls on Thursday usually, I do tune in as often as I can and listen. And of course, review and play around with you when I can to.
I knew it. I knew it was Pukle.
Yeah. But you've both been doing a great job. And we're really talking about an opportunity that we all have in this modern world with the release of these traditions from the indigenous people of Peru that really gives us an opportunity to look back in time. And when I say this, I hope everyone understands that I'm saying this with the highest respect for the indigenous people of Peru. They, especially the Q'ero, they were able to escape a lot of the Western culture coming in. Because of living in isolation. And many of the jungle tribes and some of the other mountain tribes like the Kalawaya and stuff like that, they were able to a degree reduce the amount that the Western world played in their life. And because of that, they got to continue to live their indigenous ways. And part of that is that they were able to bring a different perspective into the modern world. See, most of the world, even in Asia, a lot of Asia, there was this movement of the Western mindset, with the British going into like India and the Philippines and all of that. There was this movement of the Western mindset. And with that came the modern mindset. And what we get in some of these indigenous groups in South America is that we get a glimpse into the remote past. So these were people who were at the pinnacle of the Stone Age. They brought the Stone Age technology into a realm that we don't really think of in the Western world that often, except for when we think of Egypt or Samaria. So they were able to bring that type of mindset into this modern age, and they got to keep adapting that and growing that and developing that instead of taking the Western reductionist scientific way of looking at life. They continue to look at things from a very organic, nature-based, holistic way. And because of that, they give us a direct window into the past. And I believe it's a direct window into our collective past, into the way that many of the ancient peoples viewed reality. So it gives us a window into spirituality before dogma, before all this other stuff got piled on top of it that has to do with living in a civilized society, quote unquote. So their main goal, which is different than our goal in this tradition, their main goal is survival. And they live a very nature-based reality. So their Aini, which is their reciprocity with nature, has to be on point or they die. I mean, that's really how the tradition is for them. There was a time during the Inca Empire, things were a lot easier because the Inca Empire was a very beautiful experiment in divine sharing, in this idea of reciprocity. But after the Westerners came about 500-600 years ago, that was destroyed, and they went right back into nature. They no longer had this centralized government that was keeping them afloat, and they had to be able to do it completely through their Aini with and their relationship. So that's something that they bring to, for us. You know, a lot of times in the Western world, we get some misunderstandings of some Asian spirituality, misunderstandings.
Uh-oh.
Hopefully he can pop back on here soon.
Still here?
Yeah, there you are.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sorry. And some misunderstandings from the Western world of Africa that view reality as an illusion, that view the reality we live in as an illusion. Now, there is an illusion out there, but it's an illusion projected by our minds, not by the reality itself. And because of that, we get very disrespectful. The Western culture taking that view, and then when modern science or natural science was developed and they started to reduce everything, they started to look at everything as deaf, dumb, and blind. That the entire universe that we live in isn't special, that this reality or isn't something special, but is some kind of trauma that we're having to live through. And because of that, they don't really give any respect to the natural world, and they use and abuse the natural world. And this is directly related to the way we view our bodies. Our physical bodies, we view the way our culture views the earth, because the physical body is the feminine representation of our manifestation. So when we treat the earth that way as deaf, dumb, and blind, we tend to treat our bodies that way as deaf, dumb, and blind. We tend to treat our emotions that way as deaf, dumb, and blind. We start to create these philosophies that say that only positive thoughts are welcome, and that you are ruining the world if you have a negative thought, and all these other things that really take us away from our being, from our existence. And as we get further and further away from that point, and we get more and more ostracized, more and more estranged from our own emotions and feelings, it's really hard to know who the self is outside of its conditioning. It becomes really hard to know what you really want in life. You know, what your real dreams are, or what your real values are, because our values become the values of our family, the values of our culture. And because we're not taught to honor our emotions, not taught to honor our bodies and our feelings, we really get into this place where we think we're wrong. And you know, this is something that happens with empaths a lot. You know, how different an empathic world, an empath's world might have been if when they were very young, they weren't told just to get over it, or weren't just told they're too sensitive, but were told that there was a use for that sensitivity, that it could actually be a benefit for them. Because in our modern world, what we're taught is, oh, this is a detriment to you. This makes you divergent from the rest of the culture. This makes it hard for you to go out there. In fact, they could be even more of a benefit to our culture because of that higher emotional intelligence. But the problem is they haven't been taught to honor it, and they haven't been taught to view it that way. And this is something that nature helps us with. If you notice, most people who are empaths and stuff, they also deal with depression and anxiety, not always their own, but even if it's someone else's, it's so hard for them to deal with. And if we notice people when they're depressed, when they're anxious, when things just aren't going really well for them, we notice that they start to feel heavy. They start to feel like they're carrying a great weight around with them. And this great weight just weighs them down, and it sucks all the life out of their environment. And what is happening in those moments? What is happening is the most natural cue from the universe, which is telling you to reconnect with the mother, to reconnect with the earth, to realign your grid with her grid. And if you notice that people who are depressed, people who are anxious, especially after a big anxiety fit, you know, a big anxiety attack or a panic attack, they start to crash. They get closer and closer to the ground. Depressed people sit on the floor. They'll get on the ground. They'll lay in their bed. What are they actually doing? They're trying to reconnect to the earth, but they're not taught that that's what they're trying to do, because that's the medicine. Ancestrally, in every fiber of our body, we know that's the medicine that's going to recalibrate us. Doesn't mean that you'll never feel that way again, but we know that if we get all the way down to the earth and we can ground into her, that we're going to realign ourselves and that we're going to come back feeling better. It might take a half hour, it might take a day even, but after that's over, we're going to have a rebirth. It's like we're burying that stuff that's been holding us down. And this is the most natural thing in the world. And Earth has an intelligence. Earth just isn't some deaf, dumb, and blind rock that floats around in space. Earth is, in our perspective, the goddess, is an incarnation of the goddess we call Pachamama. We call the earth actually Mama Aipa, just to be completely correct, but generically or generally, we refer to her as Pachamama because she is Mother Cosmos, she is Mother Matter, and she is all of that. And we are her children, and she's just waiting for us to reconnect with her. Now, I was talking about how that really helps us when we're feeling depressed or anxious or just out of sorts, but it's also part of our spiritual development. And that's a part that has been downplayed in the world, especially the Western world, that wants not that I have anything against capitalism, but wants to continue this kind of capitalistic, vampiric type of capitalism that just takes from others. The more it can get from others, the cheaper it can get it, the better. And that is a direct result of us being disconnected from nature itself. Because when we're out in nature and we really start to blend with the energies of nature, things happen to us internally. You know, every one of us, and I'm sure everyone out there, and it would be great if someone would just write in and maybe tell one of their stories, but has felt when they have felt overwhelmed or something and then gone out in nature, started to take a hike, and then all of a sudden their perspective changes. Their way of feeling the world changes because we're not an island to ourselves. Only in the beta level consciousness are we an island to ourselves when we have poured our entire awareness into this hologram we call a mind, and we're sitting there just trying to control reality from that mental space. That's the only time we're an island. And that's something that happens when we get out in nature into those passive scenes, is that suddenly this energy field that's around us starts to expand naturally. We don't have to do anything to do that. It just starts to expand around us. And as it expands around us, we're actually making contact with the spirits of nature. And in our tradition, contact is a merging. It's like coffee. Okay? So, you have a cup of coffee and it has just one dot of cream in it. It starts to spread through that entire cup of coffee, that one dot of cream. And when we go out into nature, we're like that black cup of coffee, and all the nature spirits, all that awareness, that collective information of nature is that drop of coffee that enters into us. And then suddenly it spreads through our entire being. And as it spreads through our entire being, we just think, oh, I'm relaxing. Oh, I'm thinking these thoughts because of the pretty scenery. But in fact, we're thinking that because we're having a communication. It's not a communication of the mind with nature, but a communication of the heart with nature. And nature is feeling everything because our souls have entwined. Nature feels everything we're struggling with, and she starts to lend us the energy to correct those things inside of us. And that's what happens. That's why artists go into the woods. They might not even take a hike. They might just get a cabin and write in it for a month. But that's why that works, is because suddenly you're able to get out of the head space and down into the heart space, down into these more alpha and theta levels of brainwave activity, just to throw some science in there. That's what's actually happening. As we go out into nature, we drop down. When we drop down and we're in our hearts, like I often tell everyone, the spiritual experience happens in the heart. When it's happening in the mind, that's a different part of it all. That's a communication of us to it. We can communicate from our mind to the spirit world, but when we really want to have a one-on-one sit down, we drop into our hearts. We drop out of the beta level into the alpha, And for many of us, all the way down into theta, where we start to work in trance states. And trance states are really interesting because that's when the spirits of nature can step into you and operate with the human machinery. It's a cooperation where they're helping you to do something. But in all of this, the way we see it is we have these little seeds within us, these seeds to our becoming, these seeds to the potential of what we could do in this life. And those seeds really aren't completely woken up until we spend time in nature. You know, and of course, I don't hear a whole lot of that from the Tibetan Buddhists, but they do it. They live in these mountain ashrams, these mountain temples high in the Himalayas. They're right there with nature. They're sitting out on their patios, out on their bazaars, and they're meditating for 6 or 7 hours in nature. This is what's happening with them as well, you know, and this is why the ancient temple sites were always placed in unique places in nature. These are places that in our tradition we call a waka. And all it really means is it's a place on earth where an envelope of a different reality or dimension comes through. And we've all experienced those places. Everyone stepped into a place before and wondered, what just happened? Where am I? You know, maybe it's even a house or a church and you just feel this change. Churches are not always natural wakas anymore, but man-made wakas that have been created from the prayers of the congregation over years, creates an artificial waka where the upper world imbues itself or becomes like magnetically attracted into the earth in that spot. But in the ancient world, they looked for spots that already naturally did this. And that's where they built their temples. And that's why all those ancient temples, ashrams, ancient complexes of worship were in nature, in different places in nature that had different types of energy that lent to development of certain types of gifts inside of the human being. And we often refer to them as the mysteries. These are the ancient mystery schools of Europe. That's what they were doing. You went into a mystery, you might go into a cave for a while and experience a death, and then you come back out and the sun is rising up behind the Hierophant who's holding a shaft of wheat in her hand, and you're seeing the glowing light of the sun and the shaft of wheat, and all that symbolism is encoded into your soul, and you're not told what it is. Your job is to experience it for what it is and to understand what it means for your life so that you can move forward. And that's something we've lost in the modern age. And part of that is really our disconnection with nature, that now we look for revealed scripture. Now we look, and there's nothing wrong with any of this that I'm saying, but now we look for channeled material, revealed scriptures, things like that, where someone else is telling us what the universe is all about. Where if we go out into nature and we truly learn to communicate with her, we can become part of what the universe is all about, and we can understand our part in that. And when we understand our part in it, a seed opens up inside of us and starts to germinate. And that seed is the seed of our becoming, of who we truly are. And as we start to develop that, and it takes a lifetime, right? It takes a lifetime to develop that seed inside of us, but it continues to flower more and more beautiful blooms. And each one of those blooms is like a different gift that you give to the world. It's a different way that you have to operate with the world. And as those gifts open up more and more, grace starts to happen. That's when you don't try to do things, where you're not trying to manipulate and control reality, and you don't even really half the time understand what's happening. You go into a room, you say a few kind words to someone, and you have no idea that they were contemplating suicide, and your smile or kind word changed their life forever. You have no idea about that because it's none of your business, but that's how grace works. And that starts to happen as we start to bloom more and more. And to have that, we really need this one-on-one interpersonal connection with nature. The other thing I really want to say about that is that one-on-one interpersonal connection with nature is not the way that I'm speaking right now. It's not based on the laws of language as we know it. It's based on something else. It's based on a breaking down, what we would call in the Western world, of egoic mind, a breaking down of the egoic mind. But really what it is a breaking down of our defenses that we have put up around ourselves. And as we break those down, we start to flow more and more with nature.
Thank you, Zane. And it's like, I was ringing the little bell. It was like a little sign to you, like it's 10:22. Actually, we're 2 minutes over our.
Okay.
which is great. But for everyone, Zane was only going to be on for like just for a few more minutes. So if you had a question or a comment, like now is the time to ask it, because he is going to be on a call very shortly that he had forgotten about. But we hope that you can join us again on Thursday sporadically. Or Melissa and I were talking about doing an occasional Tuesday stream, so Zane would be more available to be on with us. But if you have a question, if you have a comment, now is the time.
Yeah, Larry did comment. He's like, I love what he said about heart communication. This is real intention originates. So
Absolutely, Larry.
And hello to Kathy. We were just talking about you earlier before the live.
Yep.
But yeah, now's the time to pick Zane's brain, ask questions about the apprenticeship, his training, all his experience, and what this apprenticeship could bring you in 2024 if you decide to join it with us.
Yep, and I did post a link if you have questions or want more information about the apprenticeship itself. You can follow the link I posted in comments. That goes to a place that has the different enrollment options and everything. But at the end of the day, as you can tell just from that 20 minutes, the man's mind is a plethora of just information.
We asked one question, and this is what
and that is what happens in the apprenticeship too. Someone will ask a question, and it opens up this door, this envelope, if you will, to this whole conversation and dialogue that, it really, like, the apprenticeship really unfolds based on the questions that the students bring. And every year is different because of that. And sometimes a question opens up a door that a whole teaching that he never planned to teach. And he'll tell me afterwards, I never taught that before. And it's great that someone asked a question, because I was able to share that. So really, just like now, if you have questions, now's the time.
Yeah, that's the thing about this. Oh, I see someone asked something.
Yeah. Kathy's like, I'm excited about the apprenticeship. I'm just concerned about my work schedule.
Well, most of the apprenticeship happens on one weekend a month. And all of those weekends, I think, are already posted, aren't they?
Yeah, we need to discuss changing one of them because there was a conflict with the schedule, but we will iron that out here in the next week or two and make sure we have the official weekends lined up.
Yeah. Outside of that, what you'll get as online work is very simple. And that's just a chance for me to help deepen things, so we don't just have to have an information dump on the weekends and then you trying to scramble to understand what that information was. So it's more of an organic flow. Most of the work that we do through the weeks is less than an hour's worth of videos. I mean, by less, I mean oftentimes it's around 20 minutes worth of video that you watch. And then in the later portions of the program, we'll introduce some things. But the nice thing about the hybrid is that we don't have to get on like a live Zoom all together and practice a technique or something, because we can do that live. Mm-hmm. And there is a benefit to doing it live. And what that is our bubbles are touching. The physical heart field that I radiate out and the physical heart fields that you're radiating out are all touching. And that means that there's an instantaneous download from me of how I do these things straight into your soul body. That means that your soul already knows how to do it, and the only thing you have to overcome is up here.
Yeah, very good. And if for any reason, Kathy, if you were to miss, like you couldn't be with us on a weekend, what we've done in the past, those situations, like Melissa and I both can do that, all the initiations, so we would get the person caught up. So in the event that you just have to miss an in-person session, we would get you caught up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And we do record them too, so you would have access to, like, if you missed a session, you would be able to see that for the classroom portion of it as well.
Yeah, and when it comes down to the videos and the online part, it's just really about finding a time that works for you to go through that material. I mean, it does line up with what we're doing before the next weekend. So you want to make sure you hit all that material before we get to that next weekend. And if you have any questions about the material, you can contact any of us and we'll give you our points of view of it. But really, it's just about, that's the nice thing about this hybrid, is that it's not all reliant on the online. The online has been amazing for me. I love it because it gives me a chance to really, oftentimes, to get to know the people who are going through the program in a deeper level, and to get to apply things directly to what's going on in their life. And like Hank was saying, you know, a question will be asked live and it will go into a whole teaching. Why? Because that's the ancient way of doing this. That's the way my teachers were. We don't try to 100% create a concrete, you learn this week, this week, this week. There is an underlying pattern to the process that needs to be followed, but it's so flexible, and it really, it's really beneficial when someone can say, hey, this is what's going on in my life right now. And what about that? And it's never the wrong time. And that brings up a teaching. And that's the thing. If you have just a bunch of silent devotees looking at you at like a guru, and they never ask any questions, and they never do any of this interaction with you, then there are teachings that never get taught. And I mean never get taught. And they get lost to time. Of course, all things that are lost can be found again, but they get lost as their original way. And this has happened over and over again with indigenous cultures. Anthropologists go there, and anthropologists have certain types of questions, and they're very scientifically or culturally minded. And so with that, they only get a shell of these traditions. They only get to see it from the outside in, looking into it. And they never really get to understand how the cosmovision works in these cultures, why they believe the ways they do. They try to just reduce it into an idea, into a mindset, into so much that we now call indigenous practices from the entire world shamanism, when really, the shaman or the shaman is just a priest in the Tungus Siberian region. But because of that academic way of reducing things to their common denominators, we started to call all the spirituality that had those qualities shamanism. And I don't really think there's a big issue with that, but it is a representation of how we have simplified things instead of looking into the meat of it.
Yeah, and it is 10:30. Just to give you a timestamp, Zane.
Oh,
we have a question. I don't know if you have time to do this.
And maybe we can.
Maybe this will be the next live stream.
Yeah. If there's time, could you talk about how nature spirits might shift and change throughout the year? Context: my therapist suggested hiking in the winter, and it made me think about how that might feel different compared to hiking in the spring or fall.
Sure. So hiking in the winter is different. Every season has its own quality, and it's just like you. Every season brings out a different side of you. There's those people who you see that through the spring and the winter, they are just so unhappy. That's just their natural quality. It doesn't have to be shifted or changed, but they're just so unhappy during those times. Their energy is low. And then summer comes and they're out there just living it up. And then as soon as winter hits again, you hardly ever see them. Nature spirits are like that too. They put on their winter clothes. They put on their summer clothes. Sometimes they're more available to us. Sometimes they're more withdrawn. That's a quality of getting to know nature, to understand that even nature, and nothing in this universe is static. Nothing is always the same all the time. And that everything has personality, and personality shifts. Nothing has just a one hardened personality. When Hank and I are around each other, there's things that we bring out in each other that is a unique Hank and a unique Zane. When I'm just hanging out with Melissa, there's things she brings out in me and I bring out in her that are unique in that relationship. And every relationship is like that. And every season is like that. And it's great to get to know your nature beings through all the different seasons, through all the phases of the sun, because the sun is a nature being.
Very good. Thank you, Zane. That's 10:31. I don't want you to miss that important
Yeah,
call.
don't be late.
Okay.
That's
All
an
right.
important call. Shoo, shoo.
Love you all.
Love you. Looking forward to having you on again.
Yes.
Yep.
All
Bye.
right. Bye. All right. Well, that is our teacher, Zane Curfman, author of Inka Mountain Magic, and we will be hosting him next year in April for the 2024 apprenticeship. So check out the link. And if you have remaining questions, we're happy to answer them. I know Melissa might have to jump off for a call randomly as well. So then it might just be me. It is a phone call day. I had my phone call before the stream. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sometimes the best plans go, unmet.
Good day, Pacos. And someone saying hello back to Anthony. And it's been really cool having Zane on. If you just tune in towards the end, I saw a lot of people spike towards the end there. If you go back and watch from the beginning, it's talking about the Peruvian tradition and how it was kind of kept in like that modern, the Stone Age quality. They were using everything for survival and how that carried forward now into the modern world and how nature is really applicable to modern day spirituality. So that was the essence of the whole talk. If you're catching it on the midway through, I definitely encourage you to go back and watch the entire thing once it's rendered and up for everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say the replays will be available across all the channels. So you'll be able to go back and watch. Take notes, write down questions for next time. We are trying to line up maybe a Tuesday talk here and there with him. That Tuesdays are better for Zane, but
and when he doesn't have a time constraint, like his hour stream or whatever, so I think he's gone for like 2 hours before. So like,
when I had him on, he and I on the store channel, you can go back and watch those. They kind of go on for a while because the questions, and then he like just the amount of information he can present. So they're there. You can go back and find them on our YouTube.
Yeah, and then when you ask a question, like this person asked a question about hiking at different times of year, it really will just spin off, and you never know what you're going to learn about. And and Zane will be streaming with Tony. I don't know what that schedule is. He should post it, and we can let people know about that. Zane's going to be doing a live stream with Tony as well through his SOAR program, and that would be another opportunity just to kind of pick Zane's brain a little bit. And if you're interested in the apprenticeship, get the information to sign up. That's on my website and Goddess Elite's website. I did post a link to one in the comments as well. Cool. But, any questions? Everybody's like, no, Zane's not here. They're not
Now that the cool one's gone, there's no questions.
I'm glad he picked up because he kept going. So I was like, what am I going to do? He's going to miss his call. So I did the little chime thing. And then he stopped after that sentence.
I was just prepared to remove him from stream on the back end if we had to. Like mid-sentence, Zane would just disappear. Like, go do your call. Bye-bye.
That would be, we might get in trouble for cutting our teacher off.
I'll risk it. I think it's better in the long run. Like, you had a phone call, sir. Be gone. Go away. Go do your thing. But yeah, guys, feel free to ask questions. Otherwise, we might go ahead and end. Hank, you're in store today, right?
I am in store, though I have to pick up Oliver today, and then I have to set up for an event tonight. So I'm only going to be in from noon until about 3, and then I have to bail. But if you want an appointment virtually or in person, I'll be at the store from noon to 3, and then usually I'm there from noon to 7 when I don't have an event at my space.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. The thing is for Anthony and Zane is every other Wednesday at 6 p.m. So that's an evening one.
So
yeah, if you need a direct link for that, message me and I can make sure to connect you with Tony for that.
Yeah, but otherwise we are here every Wednesday morning. Thursday, not Wednesday, Thursday.
Soon we will be here more often.
But feel free to come in, ask questions, suggest topics. If you are a past student and you're like, hey, can we go more in depth of this? It's been a minute since we've discussed it, or I would like more clarification. Absolutely, present that. But yeah, questions, comments. It's a supportive community of past students and maybe new future or just like-minded people that want to discuss such topics.
Yeah, and one of the other things that we've done and we'll do this upcoming year too is I would have a review day, and where we would like all the videos that Zane has in between, like having a group opportunity to go over all that. And I found that that generates a lot more questions. Zane isn't there for that, but me and or Melissa would be. And then the other thing I've done is I let people come in early before the scheduled meeting time and basically have like a clinic where if you wanted additional opportunity to practice the different things that are taught, like there's an opportunity to do that with people a little bit more frequently as well, outside of just the regular program.
Yeah.
Sure. Cool. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah. I think we'll wrap it up. Get ready for the day. Go do the adulting thing up at the store.
Yep. I will see you soon. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll have a good holiday. It's the holiday this weekend, right? I think.
Soon. I lost track. It's
The
Thursday.
holiday is soon, but have a good holiday, and we will see you next week.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye.